people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
To the mother relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Per a tweet from Michael Benson, Gervonta Davis has stated that his next fight will take place early next year, early in 2024. Rumors abound.
Well, there's still plenty of time left in this year for him to get a third fight in.
He fought Hector Luis Garcia at the start of the year.
Right.
Ryan Garcia towards the middle. And there's still enough time left. You have all of October, all of November, and all of December to try and put something together. For a while, it looked like he would return in either the fall or winter months, but apparently that's not the case based on his latest statements. Rumors abound.
That rumor about him fighting Keith Thurman, it's still out there.
In my previous video, we talked about how Showtime executive Stephan Espinoza dispelled the rumor, saying there's no substance to it and it's not going to happen. But boxing insider Rick Glacier says otherwise. He says the rumor of Tank Davis possibly facing Keith Thurman may or may not happen, despite Showtime boxing head honcho Stephan Espinoza saying it isn't true. Why?
Why would they want to do that fight?
According to Rick, that fight would sell a lot more pay-per-views than a rematch with Pitbull Cruz. The question is, which fight would you rather see?
Neither.
Both an Isaac Pitbull Cruz rematch or a Keith Thurman fight at a catch weight, a proposed catch weight of 145, that's the rumor. Those are both pointless endeavors. They don't meet any demand as far as what the consumers are demanding. No one is demanding that Gervonta fight Isaac again, and no one is demanding that he fight Keith Thurman. The only function of such a fight with Keith at a catch weight, would have to be the PBC's continued effort to keep everything in-house.
That's it.
Killing 2, maybe 3 birds with one stone. We know that Keith Thurman is holding out for a big fight, a major one, because for some reason he thinks he deserves it, and a Gervonta Davis fight would be bigger than what he has been doing, which isn't very much. So there's that. There is also the continued effort to keep Gervonta on their side of things, to continue to deliver their brand of boxing, not involving anybody else's fighters.
You see what happens when it involves anybody else's fighters. The PBC guys tend to lose.
And 3, what Rick Glacier suggested. While no one is demanding that Gervonta Davis fight Keith Thurman, even less people are demanding an Isaac Pitbull Cruz rematch. That's even more pointless than a Thurman fight.
You beat Isaac already. What the hell's the point in fighting him again?
A few weeks ago, Gervonta Davis's longtime trainer Calvin Ford expressed an interest in doing a second fight with Isaac on the predication that they didn't knock him out the first time, that they beat him, but they didn't knock him out. That's still not enough to revisit a fight with him.
That doesn't make that a hot ticket.
Based on what Rick is saying, sales projections might be a little bit more robust if Gervonta moves up in weight to fight a former champion in Keith Thurman. The problem with that is nobody thinks much of Keith Thurman these days. It's gotten to the point to where Clarissa Shields is threatening to fight him, threatening to beat him.
Yeah.
That's how far he's fallen.
Yeah.
But if this is true, then why is Stephan Espinoza saying it's not true? Why is he saying the opposite, that it's not going to happen?
I don't know, but I can bounce a few ideas around. I mean, maybe it's still early and these are just preliminary talks that are happening and they haven't ironed out the finer details. The money.
We know oftentimes that's a sticking point that determines what fight happens and what fights don't. And we know that Keith Thurman is more than willing to sit on the bench, continue to sit on the bench collecting dust if he's not paid the way he wants to be paid. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe Stephan doesn't want to get people's hopes up for a fight that hasn't been finalized yet. Thus, he dispelled those rumors.
In any event, Gervonta's not going to be returning to action until early next year.
According to him. And just in keeping with the theme of Rick Glacier's insights, Rick says, boxing has become a watered-down version of itself, but that could change quickly with Showtime leaving PBC Boxing. If PBC isn't able to come up with a TV streaming output deal that includes guaranteed revenues, but in fact would be just a distribution deal with no guaranteed revenues, the fighters will have to be put in old-school 50-50 fights for a lot less than what they've been making. Back to the best fighting the best, and it would force the other promoters to improve the quality of their fights. That's right.
The rumor in reference to Showtime potentially leaving boxing beyond this year or next year, it all depends on who you ask. It's gaining a lot of traction. We talked about what Eddie Hearn had to say about it, that he heard the rumor, as well as boxing insider Raf Elusive 2.0.
And Rick is essentially expanding upon that rumor, saying that many fighters, if they want to fight, they're going to be put in old school sink or swim situations. He's saying, rest in peace, Showtime Boxing, 1986 to 2023. It didn't have to be this way, but that's what happens when you pay exorbitant rights fees to cover purses for fighters that are exorbitantly overpaid. And this was all done under the watch of Showtime Boxing's head honcho, Stefan Espinoza.
Upon the inception of the PBC, when they still had buku dollars, when they still had all that Waddle and Reed money to throw around, you had a lot of fighters that got spoiled.
Guys getting paid big money for what weren't big fights, and they got used to that, so much so that unless you were going to pay them an arm and a leg to get out there, they didn't want to fight anymore. How many quasi-retired fighters do you see on that side of the street? Gary Russell, Keith Thurman,
Danny Garcia, Jermall Charlo,
Andy Ruiz, Erislandy Lara, the list goes on. Now Michael, a friend of the channel, asked, they're shutting down after the Canelo fight, to which Rick Glacier responded, in December, which is a little different from the other rumors that are out there, that Showtime Boxing will survive what remains of this year, and at least in part, next year, though things are going to change.
Some things.
And not for the better. Long gone are the days of a comprehensive schedule of fights by way of Showtime. Those days are over, at least per these rumors, that all you're going to get next year are pay-per-views, box office fights, and that's it.
Now, obviously, that's not good for the consumer, having to shell out $60 and $70 and $80 at a time just to watch a boxing match.
Showtime's competitors don't make you do that anywhere near as much as Showtime does. You already have what you're paying month to month or annually, depending on what kind of plan you have. There are already those expenses, but if you tack on what you'd have to pay to see all these pay-per-views...
That's not value for money.
Why all these pay-per-views, you ask?
Why?
Budget cuts. If I had to put my finger on it, the reason you're going to see more and more pay-per-views instead of fights on a regular schedule, it's due to budget cuts. It's due to Showtime's annual budget for boxing either shrinking or disappearing altogether. Thus, they must turn to the fans to bankroll these shows. It's tantamount to a GoFundMe.
Crowd-sponsored boxing.
And better times. More fertile times for the sport, more stable. The broadcast partner gives the boxing outfit a budget, say $60 million or $80 million annually, to do shows throughout the calendar year. But if they're not giving them anything anymore, or barely anything anymore, they gotta turn to the fans' wallets.
Yep.
Over and over and over again.
Like they've been doing.
And that is what is consistent with this rumor, irrespective of who you ask, whether it's Raf or Rick.
So what if Showtime is pulling the plug on boxing beyond this year or next year? What if that happens? What then?
Then Al Heyman would be in the market for a new broadcast partner. And that's part of this rumor, at least the part of it that I heard, the part of it that was imparted to me 2 or 3 days ago, that Al Heyman is in the market for a broadcast partner, and he's looking to pair up with Amazon.
Now, it's not a secret that Amazon would like to expand upon their catalog by adding sports to it.
Rumor I heard was that Al is looking to partner up with them beyond the life of his deal with Showtime, but the caveat is Amazon only wants mega events, mega fights.
They don't want shit shows like Ortiz versus Martin or Ortiz versus Ruiz. They're not in the market for that.
Now, if you're thinking to yourself that if Canelo wins this weekend, he still has 2 fights left with the PBC. Those 2 fights might happen on the Showtime platform next year, before anything happens with Amazon, if anything even happens.
If you're thinking to yourself, well, they've got Gervonta Davis. Well, how many of Gervonta Davis's fights were actually mega fights? Just one. 1 out of 6.
These are just rumors, and I am imparting them to you as they were imparted to me. Don't shoot the messenger. But rumor has it, Al is in the market for a new broadcast partner, and he would like to pair up with Amazon. But the problem is, Amazon only wants the biggest of the big fights.
We don't know that Amazon won't partner up with them. We don't know that they will. We don't know that they won't. But if they don't, That's when it becomes a doomsday scenario.
If they can't find another broadcast partner to give them an annual budget to continue to stage fights throughout the year.
We're not there yet.
Rumors abound. The rumors are prevalent and becoming more and more prevalent as we approach the end of this year. But Showtime Boxing, it's not dead yet.
Stay tuned.
As it pertains to the PBC and PBC fighters, Michael Zerafa says when Tszyu and I fight, it will be a massive event.
Michael Zerafa was supposed to fight Tszyu well over a year ago, I think it's been 2 years now. He decided to pull out of that fight due to what were COVID concerns, and as Stevie Sparks ended up standing in his place, what looked to me like a shameless duck.
Behind the guise of health concerns, middleweight contender Michael Zerafa is still keeping a close eye on his Australian rival, junior middleweight star Tszyu. According to Zerafa, he's now aligned with the PBC and is guaranteed a crack at the winner of Erislandy Lara versus Danny Garcia, who are slated to collide later on this year for the WBA middleweight title. Tszyu is back next month. He makes his first defense of the WBO middleweight title against Brian Mendoza.
It's gonna be a good fight.
In case you guys forgot, initially, it was supposed to be Michael Zerafa versus Erislandy Lara for the WBA title. But Michael Zerafa decided to stand down and step aside to allow Danny Garcia to get his crack at the apple, his crack at Lara's newly obtained WBA title. That fight between Lara and Danny, that was supposed to go down last month in August.
According to Danny, it got pushed back, way back.
Michael Zerafa's crack at the apple along with it. Michael Zerafa, who believes a showdown with Tszyu will eventually happen. The rivalry between us is real, and I am sure Tim feels the same, said Zerafa to the Daily Mail. Comes from a great boxing bloodline. His father is Kostia, one of Australia's greatest. As it stands, we're both number one in our divisions. There is only one way to settle who is the best, and that is in the ring. We are both doing our thing at the moment, but when the bout does happen, it will be a massive event. I wouldn't say he gets under my skin, though.
I'd say this guy knows how it looks, and that's why he's still talking about a Tszyu fight. Tim is at 154, whereas Michael is at 160. He's at middleweight.
And he's not making waves. He's not made a splash there. The title shot that he had, you went ahead and gave it away to Danny Garcia. Now, you've got to wait for him to settle up with Lara before you get to do anything.
Zerafa told the outlet that he expects to return in November against an Argentinian opponent in Las Vegas.
Following that would be the winner of Lara versus Garcia. Contracts with Premier Boxing champions have been signed. The path is now clear, which is great. I'm training 3 times a day, and I feel great physically, mentally, and emotionally, Zerafa said. The end goal is to be a world champion, and I'm ready to make a statement.
He's fighting an Argentinian fighter. Could it be Brian Castano? Is he coming back? Is it Sergio Garcia?
Whoever it is, Michael Zerafa has to tread lightly because Michael Zerafa sucks.
He ain't got the ceiling Tszyu has, the ability. If he plays his cards wrong, he could lose the title shot that he just gave away to Danny Garcia. Lose it to some Argentinian fighter.
Precarious situation. If Lara beats Danny, I suppose he'll go straight into a fight with Michael. I don't see why not, provided Michael stays in the winner's bracket. But if it's Danny, if Danny Garcia wins...
Wait a minute now.
All these rumors going around about Showtime's future in the sport, how the budget has been cut, and all they're going to roll out are pay-per-views moving forward into next year. Can they do these fights in a timely fashion?
Is Tszyu versus Michael Zerafa even still a conversation?
Not going to say that the ship has sailed on that fight. There is still hope that it could happen in the future, but these two fighters are perceived in very different ways. Tszyu has made a splash, a big one, whereas Michael...
Nobody's ranting and raving about how impressed they are, or they have been with Michael, and Michael's been around.
So what does Michael bring to the table that would make a fight between him and Tim a big fight? What exactly?
I don't know.
And finally, as it pertains to this weekend's fight between Charlo and Canelo Alvarez, Jermel says, all them motherfuckers are going to want to fight me after I beat Canelo. A stout observation. You often hear it said that heavy is the head that wears the crown. If he becomes undisputed champion at 168, there are going to be a lot of guys gunning for him.
I don't actually think he's going to win, but for argument's sake, let's say that he does.
Jermel Charlo realizes a resounding win against Canelo Alvarez on Saturday will put him in a powerful position to set up a series of more mouth-watering matchups moving forward. But first, the Houston native and betting underdog must muster off a career-defining win against the Mexican superstar and undisputed super middleweight champion at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas on Showtime pay-per-view.
Easier said than done.
A win over Canelo will let me know that I am right here where I should be, Charlo said in an interview with BoxingScene.com and other media.
A win over Canelo would make him the target for a lot of people.
We already know that Terence Crawford has made it his career goal to attempt to become a three-time undisputed champion in the four-belt era. We already know that Terence Crawford is gunning for the winner of this fight, but he wouldn't be the only one if Jermell pulls it off.
Far from it.
If I need more work to do, then I've got more work to do. A win over Canelo will stamp me as one of the greats. I take his belts, then I have to fight the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, and all of the big boys, right? I'm going to have all them motherfuckers trying to fight me. And I've got the short little Omaha fisherman, Terence Crawford, or whatever you want to call him, the net carrier.
Now, once again, I don't think Jermell's going to pull it off this weekend. I have Canelo Alvarez winning. I have Canelo Alvarez stopping him. But in the unlikely event that Jermell wins...
Before it even becomes about Terence Crawford or any of those other aforementioned fighters, he might have to fight Canelo Alvarez for a second time. Don't forget, it's a 3-fight deal Canelo's got with the PBC. A 3-fight deal. There would still be 2 fights left.
The second fight with Canelo would pay out more than a Benavidez fight, more than a Plant fight.
The second fight with Canelo might pay more, a little more, than a fight with Crawford. The fight with Crawford, that's actually a very intriguing fight, and they have some history, Jermell and Terence, so I think you could make some money with that.
You could sell it.
I'm not going to have to worry about losing too much weight. I've been sparring bigger guys for a very long time, and now it's about bringing that same mindset that I have at 154 and bringing it up with me at 168, Charlo said during a recent media workout. This is a dream come true, just like winning Undisputed. Winning a world title and making it out of the mud was. Once you get this far and you see yourself prospering, you just want to keep bringing it. I'm staying focused and handling business.
I like his attitude, even if I don't like his chances.
5 or 6 years ago, it looked a lot like Jermell was standing in the shadow of his brother, who was a lot more talked about at that time. And my, how the tables have turned. I mean, Jermell's career has come to all but a screeching halt, where Jermell, in many ways, he is prospering. He managed to get the most sought-after fight in perhaps all of boxing, at least one of them, the Canelo Alvarez fight. And if he loses, it's a victimless crime, because we know he's coming off a layoff. We know he's not a super middleweight.
Makes a fuck ton of money.
Maybe take some time off to go spend it, you know? If he wins, however, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And
David Benavidez is going to be gunning for you. Demetrius Andrade, Caleb Plant, David Morrell,
Christian Mabili. Don't forget about Christian. Terence Crawford. They're all going to be coming after Jermell. Does he have what it takes to successfully defend the undisputed crown? Because Canelo has.
2 times.
Ultimately, it's a question I don't think we'll get the answer to, because Canelo's motivated. He hears what people have been saying about him, that he's in decline, and he, just as much as Jermell, seems to want to make a statement.
Having made some alterations to his camp,
Jermell is motivated. I don't doubt that he is. But so is Canelo.